Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. Mike, could you do roll call?
Yeah, I'm doing that virtually.
Okay. Now, the next item on our agenda is approve of the minutes. Do you have a copy of the minutes? So, any motion?
I'll motion that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second.
Okay. Discussion? Correction? Comments? Okay, we're going to process a vote. So, Mike, we're going to do it virtually?
Yes, I'm going to, we're doing something new today, trying to do this through these built-in polling tools here. So I've got it here. I'm going to hit the launch button and then you should be able to see that. So this is to approve the minutes.
Ah, very nice.
Okay.
For some reason, it doesn't give me, the launcher, the option to vote. So I'll just add mine at the end.
Good, thank you. At least I did mine.
This, of course, is assuming that the people eligible to vote know who they are, and the people who do not are not eligible know who they are too. I guess if everyone's voted, I'll close the poll. Got 26 yay, 0 nay, 0 abstain. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So minutes approved. Number 3, actually number 4. Remarks, report actually from the president of the faculty senate, and I'm going to report to you a few items. First, as you know, we send off 2 issues, faculty senate update or FIY, both in July and in August. And second, I made some remarks at the Board of Trustees meeting in July, and I shared them with you by our faculty senate update. And in fact, this week, there will be another board meeting. I will make a few marks to FIY. Number 3, and I would like to take this moment to appreciate the 3 faculty members who attended 3 important meetings on my behalf, while my schedule could not allow me to do so. First, I would like to thank Professor Jennifer Sherry, who attended the Sanuki safety meetings. And second, I thank Professor Eric Jacobs, who attended the campus reopening meeting. And third, I also appreciate Professor Jay Needham, who attended the new faculty orientation on shared governance while I could not make it. So thank you, those 3 faculty members for helping me to represent faculty senate. Number 4, I had 2 meetings with our Chancellor Nan, about several important matters. That means, okay, one in August, another in September. We talked about campus safety and shared governance, and also enrollment and faculty budget and a few other issues. And 5, in August, we co-hosted 3 public meetings or forums at which 3 Vice Chancellor student affairs candidates were interviewed by 3 constituencies. That means faculty senate, civil service, and AP staff. Number 6, this semester, the Chancellor and the Provost invited both the Faculty Senate President and the Graduate Council Chair to accompany them to visit with the faculty, staff, and students in all colleges and some traditional school units. I will attend majority of those visits. Due to my schedule, my teaching or other commitment, I may ask a few, maybe 2 or 3 of our Faculty Senate Executive Council member to help me on behalf of the Faculty Senate to help the Chancellor and the Provost for their visit. Finally, ceremony events. On July 17th, I attended the late Professor and previous Faculty Senator Shane Koch's memorial service in the Carbondale Civic Center to represent the Faculty Senate. And I presented a resolution to the family. Also, FYI, on September 7th, that means a few days ago, I attended the SIU faculty and staff lunch ribbon cutting ceremony in the Student Center. So any question and comments for me? Okay, if you have if you have any question, you may raise your hands virtually. Otherwise, I'm going to move to the next one, number 5. Okay, number 5, Q&A session with the Chancellor and the Provost. We have 20 minutes. So the Chancellor and also Provost Kumarajo, all the floor will be yours.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Well, you run a tight ship, so I appreciate that. It's good to see everybody, and hopefully you're doing well. And it feels like I haven't been able to see somebody for a while, so it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Just a few. Is it okay, Dr. Lee? Just a few updates. Is that okay before we get into Q&A? Okay. I just really want to thank all of you for your work with enrollment. You probably are reading some of the things that we're putting out there as it relates to our enrollment. Is pretty promising if you think about what it was as far back as fall of 2016, where we had losses of double-digit losses, 12%, 10%, 9%, 8%. Just last year, it was 2.8%, and this year it's 0.8%. So if it feels like we're celebrating, stabilizing the enrollment declines, we're doing just that. So hats off to many of you on this call who helped us with that. I know with your recruitment and retention coordinators, you worked very diligently with them to try and make sure that students, not only new students came to us, but transfer students, graduate students, returning students. A lot of that work was done from each of you, and we really appreciate that. Give you some quick numbers. We have the largest new freshman class we probably had in 5 years. So we're up about 4.5%. That's a very promising number when you're talking about building your foundation of incoming freshmen. If you compare that to probably 2017, we may have been at 970 some odd students. So that's a pretty big jump when you start thinking about where we are. That's a 2-year increase for that freshman class, 2 years in a row it's increased. We work very hard with our community college partners, Dr. Wilkerson at Rend Lake, over at Shawnee, over at Logan and other community colleges. We saw a 3.5% increase in our transfer population. Again, that's not magic. We really had to work and had to do some apologizing to some of them because they said we just haven't really taken an interest in transfer students. And we did a lot of creative things with the Saluki transfer commitment and really were able to beef that number up. We plan on doing a lot more in the transfer arena, not only locally, but across our state. We've got a brand new partnership that you're going to hear about. And I think, Mira, we're signing that deal here any minute now with the Illinois Community College Board. It's a great deal exclusive to us. And you'll hear a lot about that as we sign that agreement, but that's a really good thing. Our graduate enrollment was up as well, 1.38%, which is a really good sign. We want that to continue to move up in that respect. When people say that sometimes maybe we are not touching as many people or folks are not as interested in coming here, that's becoming a myth now because we had a 16% increase in our applications. We had 9,200 plus applications. That's huge. That means that word's getting out. Just this morning, Wendell gave us an update through the enrollment management piece about where we are already for fall of 2022, and we're up already for the fall of 22 as it relates to applications and everything else. So really excited about it. We always say you're only as good as your last 10th class day. So, while we're celebrating, we're already talking about what we're doing for the fall of 2022. You'll hear things like the Southern Illinois Swarm, which is an initiative that we're working with our superintendents, high school principals, and our state reps in the areas where they have high schools here in our own backyard. I didn't mention our Southern Illinois region. We increased 34%. From students from this region. So we are putting a focus on students from the region. It's paying off. We're seeing that turn the corner there. That's a very promising number that we definitely wanted to increase, but we're going to do even more. So a lot of our efforts as we go out, we will actually, myself included, will go out to the high schools with the state representatives, Representative Senator Bryant, Senator Jacobs, or Representative Jacobs. We've got Senator Fowler, Representative Severin. There's several that will be going with us to the high schools to recruit local students here locally. We have another initiative in October, the Chicago Blitz. And obviously, as you know, the majority of our enrollment comes from Cook County. So we are going to be all over Cook County and recruiting. We've got several high schools targeted there. We also have some partnerships. Our University Center will have a presence at Harper College. That's us. I think it's Northern Illinois, and I think DePaul is there right now, but we will have a presence in that area, on-ground presence. City Colleges of Chicago signing an agreement there as well to connect in with those schools. And then we're looking at the South colleges there. I guess it's in the south side of Chicago. There's some South community colleges there that we'll connect with, along with the superintendents of high schools in those areas. We have a lot planned for about 4 days of just literally blitzing the city of Chicago. One of the things you'll start to see very quickly as we continue to market, our new marketing materials will come out and they'll be tied to our strategic planning with Imagine SIUC in 2030. So you'll see a lot of the Imagine boards that will start to hit the highways. If you're going to the Cardinals game, we've got a prime location right there. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but it's on the left side. I see Keith shaking his head. He must be a Cardinal fan there. So it's on the left side, and it has Coach Mullins that's right there actually. And on the board, it says, imagine going from player to head coach. And you can do that at Southern Illinois University Carbondale. And so a lot of those boards are going to highlight what people can become if they can imagine themselves here and where it will take them. So we're really going to be pushing that. We're doing an RFP, or looking to totally revamp, redesign our webpage. I know it's a little messed up there. I get it. But we've got some work to do there so it flows into some of the Imagine themes that we're trying to put on the highway. So we want that to match. We want it to be where people look at it on the roads, or if they look at it in social media, then when they look on the web, they go, oh, okay, it all aligns together and looks well. Our strategic planning piece should be done here about the first week in October as well. So that document, you'll start to see it come alive and come out. That's on the enrollment front. Very quickly on the COVID front, you all are probably aware of the executive order that's out. I know that things are moving pretty fast, and thanks for your patience. Sometimes we find out things within minutes and we have to adjust and turn on a dime. We actually anticipated the governor going to what he did in the executive order, which was to either require folks to have a vaccination or go through weekly testing. We put some scenarios together about a month or so in advance. So we knew something like that was probably coming. So when we adjusted with having the vaccination clinic, we got that up probably in less than 48 hours. Our testing, we asked the governor to give us some testing down here because we were getting low. We've got a testing company, Redditus, that's doing it over in Grinnell. So what we're working through now for supervisors is just making sure as we look at our list for folks through the attestation process, just trying to make sure that people know that September 19th is coming. So we just need to know if they've been vaccinated, that's fine, that's great. If not, then we just need to take them through the testing protocol piece. We've already had some folks that are going through that now. And you really have that option to be able to do that, but you have to do one or the other. I've been telling people we don't want to lose anybody because, again, things can get better and change. And I know some folks are kind of dug in on, hey, I'm not going to do either one of them. You know, in that executive order, it says that you can't be here if that's the case. Now, I don't want to lose anybody. I don't want people to not at least go get tested. And that's just part of the protocol of being safe. But I hope we don't have folks that are just dug in and you know, just don't want to do anything, because there are some things we're going to have to do. Our supervisors are going to have to work with folks who are saying they don't want to do that. And we're going to have to still move forward, or else we get in trouble based on not following the executive order. And we don't want to get in trouble. So we'll have a lot of updates that continue to come out. We will put on the dashboard so you can see at any given time what those numbers look like in terms of who's going through testing. This morning, I think we had about 565 that have not completed the attestation form. So we're working with those faculty and/or staff to make sure that that information is being turned in. We look like right now close to about 1,000 that will be going through testing weekly. And again, we believe that number will come down. The more folks check their email and realize that, oh, okay, I've got to turn that in. I didn't realize it. So I was glad we got more time in the executive order. It was September 5th, then it moved to September 19th. So I think some folks are just catching up, and that's fine. We're not penalizing anybody during this process. We're giving them until the 19th. And so I think some people had some concerns there as well with that. So our area, we had a Zoom last night with our student community. Our student leaders wanted to have a Zoom, and we talked, answered a lot of questions in there for students, and made sure that they knew exactly what they needed to do to make sure they either go through testing or get vaccinated. And so we'll continue to do that and update everyone accordingly. We are putting out critical summarized updates through the Leadership Council. So for those that may have a piece in the Leadership Council, if not, we'll make sure you get that same information. It's really hot off the press information that we're asking our constituency leads to share with the folks that they lead. And so we want to make sure the information continues to move into the institution. On a lighter note, believe it or not, budget. This week, we will take our fiscal year 2022 budget to the board. The budget looks better than it did last year, which is a good sign, because we had a tough budget last year. You remember we were doing 6% reduction across the board in your budgets. And, you know, we had a pretty tough time in trying to balance everything. But as a result of our efforts in enrollment, reducing our tuition waivers, reducing the athletic budget considerably, and some other areas, we've been able to put forward a 2% raise that we're trying to give across the board for all employees. We hope the board is going to approve that increase. We know that we've not had increases here. Actually, 2015 and maybe 2019, there were no increases. I think 2019, then there was a 1% increase, and then that was it. And so overall, I think between 2009 and 2020, we've been at about 11.5% of increases over that span of time. So I know that 2% doesn't make up for a lot of that, but we think it's at least a start. And obviously, the more we can be efficient and watch and be good stewards of our dollars, we hope to be able to give that back to our faculty and to our staff, and to make sure you know that we do appreciate the work that you are doing. And I know that may not always feel like that sometimes, but trust me, we're always thinking about ways that we can give it back to you so we don't lose you. I know some of you could go other places and you're getting offers, and, you know, we don't want to lose you. So that's important. Those are just a few quick things. I'll end with our faculty staff lounge. Thank you, Dr. Lee. and your team for supporting that lounge. The lounge is in Old Main. For those of you that have been here before, I think it may have been there before at one period of time, but we tried to bring it back. And it's a space for you. It's a space where you can get away or just come over to the Student Center, and we'll have, and sometimes in some days we'll have a program where we'll have special events in there where we can meet. I plan on being in there and meeting with various faculty or staff in that space to do things like almost like we're doing now. If there are updates that are needed, or if groups just want to convene and come over and talk, we'll be able to do that in a way that's programmed and unprogrammed, and we'll have some more information out about that. But other than that, we are 4 weeks in, and I know that it's been a pretty hectic 4 weeks. There's a lot that's been taking place here in 4 weeks. But just know that we are moving forward. We've got folks that are new that are here. I met all the new faculty members, I guess maybe that was a couple of weeks ago, and welcome them to campus. We plan on making that an ongoing thing where we don't just have folks show up that are new and never get to meet. Not that I'm important or anything, but I would like for them to at least get to meet the chancellor. And I can say hello and thank you for being here and answer any questions they have. And we'll do the same for staff as well. So we're going to work on onboarding a little bit better, making sure that folks know what we have to offer here and what outlets they can utilize, what constituency groups that are assigned to them, or if they have issues or concerns, that they should use them and not be afraid to speak up. So on that note, that's probably more than you needed to know, but Dr. Lee, I'll stop there and be glad to answer any questions, or wait for Dr. Kamaraju to present.
Okay, we have time for a few questions, and then we will ask Provost Kamaraju to make comments after that. Questions?
Yes, I would like to follow up on the great enrollment data. I sort of asked a similar question last week in the executive meeting, but I want to kind of bring it to the full faculty. I think we're in that period of time when we are thinking about reassessing our strategies, thinking about how to get best fall 2023 class to come. So I noticed that we were up in significantly in applications last year, but we only grew 4.5%. And this sort of tracks with what I know last spring when I was doing my yield calls, or when my now director, Dr. Bean, was doing our yield calls for history education, that we'd find that the students that already accepted places at other universities were going elsewhere. So what can we do differently this year to make the finals sell? In other words, for whatever reason, we're admitting more people, we're applications up, we're improving, we're turning it around, but then they go elsewhere. So they get admitted by us, but they take, maybe they get a better financial aid package from somebody else, or they just go elsewhere. So that's one tiny question I have. And I guess the other bit of flag and otherwise very good news, something that was also concerning me, was the fact that we still are losing 24% in change of our sophomores. 24% don't come back. So how do we get that number up? Because there's going to be a certain point, because of declining birth rates and because of other societal and national factors that are really outside of our control completely, where we can't yield. We're not going to be able to yield at some point the new freshmen. We're going to have to make up the enrollment elsewhere. So how do we make up the enrollment elsewhere with these, what strategies do we put in place to get those yield rates up, get those retention rates up? So those are my two related questions. Thank you.
Joe, you always have the best questions. I think you're going to end up replacing Wendell as Associate Vice Chancellor of Enrollment Management.
Enjoyed meeting you, Joe.
Wendell's in trouble. So there are a couple of things, and you hit the nail on the head, things that we're always thinking about when we look at our competitors. First and foremost, having a thorough understanding of the state and the state's population and the college-going population of traditional age students, 18 to 24, it's shrinking in this state. The Illinois Board of Higher Education highlights African Americans, rural students from rural environments, lower socioeconomic students. Those are the category of students, Caucasian students, that are declining in this state. And so you have so many universities that are trying to go after the same pot of traditional age students. We think that while we have to maintain that momentum and getting those incoming freshmen here and converting them, I think what you're getting at is how do we convert applications to enrollments? And that's a big piece. I know Wendell is focused on that heavily this year on conversion rates. Packaging early, we talked and celebrated Dee and her staff in financial aid. You know, we moved the packaging up to before the break. So you're talking December now, where before it was in spring. So when students and families are at the dinner table thinking about their awards, they're able to at least know what our institution is offering them so they can make decisions a little earlier. We think that's going to help conversion rates. A lot of our efforts on the community college front, we think are going to help as well, you know, and how we partner. These partnerships that I'm talking about are they're really big and unique to us. And it's so big that our institution is one of 3 across the country that has been picked to work on this transfer piece to represent the state of Illinois through the IBHE. So really excited about that. And then most importantly, to kind of wind it down on conversion is we are going to have to start to look at a non-traditional student population. So it cannot be all 18 to 24-year-olds. We're going to have to really aggressively get into the market of adult students that are needing to complete their degrees and to do it at a distance and to have it with flexibility. So we're going to have to really get into that so we can branch out. In those applications, we are seeing applicants come from Texas, come from as far as California. So it's more than just the state of Illinois that we're trying to recruit. I know I spent a lot of time talking about the state of Illinois, but we are looking at our top 10 states where we're starting to get students from. We're also putting up different marketing, billboard and branding opportunities in those areas as well. So you think of it as kind of a foundation. You know, I see, Jennifer, great point. The articulation agreements, you're spot on. What we're trying to do is move those to really action agreements, you know, where in Provost will tell you with Harper College, they wanted specific programs that they believe will actually yield more enrollment because of the interest in our programs, aviation, you know, just different programs that we have here that will bode well in those areas. So a lot of strategy there, but most importantly, it's each of you helping us, you know, with conversion. Wendell will tell you this morning. Wendell, you may want to update very quickly on your work with the deans. You want to do that in terms of working with them on their enrollment?
Sure. Some of the deans, at least 3 of them so far, we've had some workshops where we talked about recruitment activities, what strategies that we can use, and more importantly, retention activities. As you know, we're graduating almost 3,000 students every year in undergraduate and graduate levels. And so if you're only enrolling 1,400 students, you're going to have to retain more students in order to do that. So just like that freshman orientation class is pretty consistent, but it only focuses on that first semester. Some of those ideas and some of those things that you face in that class are going to have to be moved throughout that student's career and throughout the curriculum. So just think about things like that. What can we do? The thing that scares me the most, and that reason why I know Joe will have my job this time next year, is that this is the first time in university history that we have 2 freshman classes on campus. Half of the campus are freshmen, never been on campus before, and the other half are either juniors or seniors. And so that is a very scary proposition, realizing the transition rates that we have from freshman to sophomore. So we can't just do business as usual when it comes to retention. The real growth at SIU is going to be in retention. And so I'm hoping that we can collectively come together with ideas on what we can do about that.
Thank you, Chancellor Nan. Thank you, Mr. Williams. The next question from Li Chang Wang.
Good afternoon, Chancellor Nan. It's very interesting to say the budget-wise is getting at least some sort of good news. And also you put a lot of effort in terms of preventing like too much like free tuition waivers, and also like in terms of curbing the budget from like sports related issues. One question I have is about IDC, that is indirect cost return from grants. I was wondering because a few years ago, the portion of IDC was taken from VCR to do something else. I do not know exactly what it is, but in terms of your goal of considering or building up or strengthening our research on campus and academic programs, I was wondering whether you were thinking about to redistribute the IDC returns so that the VCR is going to be pointed, is being selected right now to be able to support research efforts and support more students to do undergraduate research, et cetera, or provide faculty seed grants so that they can attract more federal dollars to support the campus efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Very timely. This morning, we had a really good update from Gary on our research activities and what we were thinking about or what we were hoping we end up here for the end of this year. But it's one of our pillars for research, academic innovation. And I do believe, Dr. Wang and with Dr. Lee, with your help, it is time to sit down now and start to talk through, what we want to look like. We got really good numbers about our R2 being the top R2 university in the state. That's great. It sounds really good. For us, it's going to come down to, though, the infrastructure that we're thinking about to really sustain some of these efforts going forward. So I'm open to conversations on what particularly this group thinks about what we need to do and what we need to look at, whether it's for IDC and the other areas that we're focused on. I'm open to that. Now is the time to start talking about it. The more we get our footing together, I think the more we can get back to focusing on areas that traditionally we've always had to neglect or we've always had to shave off a little bit and not make it as much of a focus. It is a focus. So it's something that I'd be very open to discuss.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor Nan. And we have one more question from Dr. Mina, and then we move to the provost remark.
Great, thank you so much, and good afternoon. This might be a question that either the chancellor or the provost could address, and it concerns how our students are charged tuition concerning distance education versus on campus. And the situation that we've run into in the School of Education more recently deals with our graduate program, but I would imagine my colleagues in undergraduate programs as well may have experienced similar issues. The concern is we have primarily online programs, but we do encourage students to take electives that are outside of that and that may end up being in other programs, especially for instances like our dual credit endorsement, where our electives might be entirely in history or they might be in zoology, et cetera. The concern, though, is when our students are taking distance ed online courses, if one of those courses in any given semester is a face-to-face course, that throws all of their tuition that they have to pay to being on campus. It makes it very hard for recruitment purposes when we're trying to give students an estimated cost of their program, one, and two, with this setup, it discourages our students from taking courses or electives in other areas. Because like I said, as if you're taking 4 courses, one of those is a face-to-face, your other 3 are distance ed, all 4 of those now you're being charged tuition-wise as if you're taking all 4 of them on campus. And so that raises the cost for that semester tremendously because of one course. So I didn't know if this is a policy, one that, to the extent that you're aware of it being problematic for some of our programs, and or 2, if it would be something that you would consider reevaluating, again, to support our programs and more importantly, to support our programs supporting each other.
Yeah, well, you got me on that one, Grant. I kind of scratching my head. Mira?
Yeah, I don't know whether, Grant, the clarification is that they charge different fees, not the tuition.
Right, right.
And
But
that
it makes
cha- and
all
that
four of
change-
those.
And that change just happened recently, where previously they had different rates. If you're on face-to-face, you have one set of fees. If you're online, you have a different set of fees. Is that the one you're talking about, where now
That's right.
if you take
Yeah.
even one face-to-face? So here is the clarification and the logic for why it was changed, is that the students who take even one face-to-face are here using our facilities, and that's why they are charged that rate for all of their courses. The other rate that is for completely online, so someone who is completely online will never be on our campus, they have a different rate because they're not using the facilities to the same extent. So it is that is a distinction that we have made, and that has what has been sort of clarified. I think it was a board matter a year ago or a couple of years ago. So that is I think the clarification is that if you are face-to-face, even one course, then you are here using the library, using the rec center, using whatever. I mean, the assumption is that you are here on the campus using the facility, so you're charged the on-campus rate. Whereas if you're completely online, it's assumed that you're not here on campus and that you are not using the facilities to the same extent, so your fees are slightly different. So
No,
I think that's the distinction.
Yeah, no, and that makes complete sense, because if they're at least being able to take one class face-to-face, then they're somehow, some way on campus. For a lot of our graduate students, they are maybe here just one evening a week to take that one course. So I understand the logic behind that. I just wanted to point out that it's potentially, and has been at times, a deterrent for our students to take courses outside of a program, especially as a lot of us are trying to transition toward online, but we do want to have that flexibility of electives being outside of those online courses. Thank you.
Yeah, Grant, that may be something we still need to dig into a little bit. And I'm seeing some of the chats come through. I'm open to talking more about that. I'm curious, and I know Wendell's locked in. Mira gave a good answer, but we may need to, Mira, and just kind of keep it on the radar.
I think there was one question. Yeah, there was one question on the chat about it costs the same to teach face-to-face as online. So there is no distinction in the tuition. The tuition is the same. It's the fees that are being different because of the services that you're using.
Yeah.
We're seeing an increasing number of students who are living in the residence hall because they want to get away from home, but they're still taking a number of online classes. So, Grant, it's a great question. Let me dig into it and see what the capabilities are.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Again, I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention and see if there are ways that we could, if there is flexibility or not, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
Chancellor Ngan, you want?
No, sir. I yield to.
Okay. Provost Kumaraja, you want to give us some brief reports in the case some of us may have a question for you?
Sure. I can just give some brief remarks and then open it up to questions. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I haven't seen you since the summer, most of you. And now we are starting the 5th week of the semester during some very challenging times. So I want to start out by thanking all of you sort of for hanging in there and doing your best, as we all are, given a constantly evolving situation. So over the summer, I just want to let you know that we welcomed 2 new deans following national searches. So we have a new dean for the College of Agriculture, Life and Physical Sciences, Eric Breivik, and a new dean for the College of Health and Human Sciences, Robert Morgan. We are initiating 2 searches for 2 more deans who are where we have interim deans, the College of Art, and these are national searches, College of Arts and Media and the College of Liberal Arts. And the second item that I'd like to update you on is the 24 new faculty that we welcomed this fall semester. As Chancellor mentioned, we had the welcome for all of them the second week of the semester. And then in terms of our fall 22 enrollment efforts, we are 49 weeks away and our countdown has already begun. We are working closely with enrollment management to ensure that we bring in an even larger freshman class, as well as transfer students and graduate students. Having been in this office for 4 fall semesters, I can share with you that this fall semester, the 10th day was quite different. from 4 semesters ago when it was 4 years ago when it was we had a 12% decline, and then a 9% decline, and then a 2.8% decline, and now to have it 0.8. So it's been a huge sort of change, and it has not happened overnight. It has taken a lot of effort by everyone on this call, all of our faculty, staff, and students even, who have helped us really address enrollment as a #1 priority. So I hope that we continue to keep it front and center of all our efforts, because it is going to really help to grow the university in the days to come. And towards that end, this semester, we have an open house on October 11th, and as well as the SIU Day that we had to sort of pause because of the pandemic. We are hoping that things stay calm and we can host it on the 20th of October. So those are just examples of things that we're already focusing on. Chancellor has covered the other enrollment-related efforts that we're doing, visiting the schools and community colleges in our area as well as in Chicago. And let me see if there's anything else. Just in terms of this fall semester, I want to mention that we work closely with the GAU and the Faculty Association, NTT and TT, to create to sort of update the instructor guide that we then shared with everybody. Hope that is kind of a guide for instructors who are in the classroom and have to deal with unexpected situations. And we are following up with updates in terms of Q&A that we receive, frequently asked questions. So that's one part of it. We are also coming up to a new situation that begins this 19th of September. Just today, I received my list of employees who have not yet submitted their attestation. So that's about 211 employees in the academic affairs area. And I will be reaching out, to the supervisors, because it's our, as Chancellor mentioned, we want to keep everybody here. And so this is the list of employees who haven't submitted any documentation or the vaccination. They do have the testing option. And so as the next week comes along, my office will get a weekly list of employees who have not, been vaccinated, not done the testing. And then there will be follow-up in terms of how we're going to deal with this in terms of sort of like a disciplinary process. So I'm hoping that by the time we get to that point, my list has 0 on it, and it will be easier to manage. But that's what is coming in the upcoming weeks. So I'll pause here because I'm sure you have questions that I can answer.
Okay, thank you. And we have time for 1 or 2 questions. I saw a hand there, and Dr. Li Chengwang.
I have 2 questions. So actually, one is update. For instance, I would like to know what is your as an update on the progress on completing operating papers and also direct hire, and that's one. The second one, I was wondering, you have set up very nice protocols for COVID-19 reporting and all the things. And then now I learned a great deal of things in the past 4 weeks. And it seems like I think you are enhancing the communication, the speed of communications. That's all in progress. One thing I was wondering whether university can provide some kind of financial support. What I'm trying to say, for instance, in the department, my department or my school, they have TAs who are TAs who are reported to have positive case, some other TAs helping out to do his class. I was wondering, if we can offer even free meal for the students who are helping out, because they are stressing out. This way, they don't have to prepare their food.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something that will be
absolutely. Yeah, just the Provost Office will be glad to provide that support, because we really appreciate these are unprecedented times. There is no sort of blueprint about how you handle these, but I know that all of our employees are very dedicated and they want the best for the student, for the university. So anything that the Provost Office can do or the Chancellor's Office can do, we will do, because we are in it together. We're trying to do everything together, and we will provide that support. So do not even hesitate a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very.
Regarding your other question in terms of the updates, we have already begun to receive some operating papers. And so the Associate Provost for Academic Administration, Mark Morris, is already working. We have completed one last year, and that is the College of Health and Human Sciences. Their operating paper did get finalized, and now their schools are preparing those. And we just yesterday got another college operating paper, so we have begun providing informal feedback. So all of those are ongoing.
Okay, thank you. Any more question? Maybe we have time for one more question. Otherwise, we're going to move on. All right. No more questions. Thank you, Chancellor Nan. Thank you, Provost Kumarajo. And
Thank you. Thanks to each of you.
okay. Now, number 6, report. Executive committee, in fact, we met last Tuesday, and my report pretty much similar to what I said half an hour ago. So I'm going to yield my time to different committees. So election committee and chair, Bethany Reeder.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Now, number C, okay. Undergraduate Education Policy Committee, and we have co-chairs Joe Schramek and Amy Bro here. So all the floor will be yours. We have a few resolutions on the agenda. Joe.
Joe, you're muted.
Thank you. We are tabling for this month's meeting the first resolution, which is to rename the School of Journalism. There has come to be an objection from another part of the university, so we are using our good offices and committee, as well as Lizette Chevalier's offices as the APAP, to see if we can come up with an amicable resolution to this and bring it before the full faculty senate perhaps next month. So I'd like to begin actually with the resolution to create an addition specialization of financial economics to the BS in finance. Is Kevin Sylvester here at all? I think I saw him on the call earlier.
Yes, I'm
okay.
here, but I can't turn on my video.
Oh, very good. Okay, so this is a pretty straightforward resolution to create a specialization of financial economics in the BS degree in finance. The School of SAFE offers these courses to both of the majors, so it's not adding any additional, not costing any additional resources. The resolution reads as is pretty straightforward and is passed unanimously through the UEPC as well as the executive committee. So I open the floor in case Kevin wants to add anything further, or if there's any questions from other senators.
I'll wait for questions.
Okay. Hearing, I'm not seeing any questions, Kevin, so I guess you don't have the screen on. So shall we take this, what's the form of procedure you think you want to use here? We vote individually, or would you rather us vote?
Okay, if no questions, so maybe we will have a vote.
Have a vote,
Okay, so.
Do we need a motion to vote?
No, because this is a standing committee motion, so it comes automatically to the floor as I understand it. So I guess I'll call the question then. All those in favor of approving this RME to add the specialization of financial economics to the BS degree in finance?
So
Let me launch the poll here.
Okay, sure.
So launching the poll for all eligible voters. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to assume everyone's voted. So in the poll, pass 28 yay, no abstentions or no's.
Okay, so then the second resolution that I'd like to bring before the full faculty senate's attention is a resolution, again, from the School of Safe, to add a minor of business analytics to the programming offered by the School of Analytics, Finance, and Economics. And this, the justification for this is, of course, the rapid expansion of big data and the need to have our students have the ability to have coursework in that and specialization, have credentials in how to use big data. This minor program would be, of course, geared towards business students, but could also be picked up as a minor with other majors as well. So I think it's also a very compelling program. It passed unanimously again through the UEPC when we had our meeting a couple of weeks ago, passed last week also unanimously through the Executive Council. So I open it up again. Kevin, if you want to say anything further about it, or if there's any questions for Kevin, I open up the floor.
No comments.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I would like to call the question.
Okay. Launching the poll. That's 29, that 28, that including me, it's 29. So 29 yay and 0 no and abstains.
I'd like to yield the floor to Amy Bro, my co-chair.
All right, thanks, Joe. Let's see here, pull up. All right, it looks like our next resolution is going to be the RME for the specialization in international studies. So that one we thought was also pretty straightforward. It had a unanimous vote in Executive Council as well. They are essentially wanting to consolidate 4 specializations into 1 specialization of international studies, which will help in reducing the overall credit hour from 47 to 33. It will allow for more flexibility for students as well. And it will encompass the 4 current specializations into an overall international studies specialization. So they all are currently already in the category of international studies. This is just going to allow for more flexibility for the students and will make it easier for them to take the courses that they need. So if there's anything that would like to be added at this time.
Amy, am I interpreting this correctly in that it doesn't reduce the overall credit hours, it just reduces the credit hour requirement so they have more room for electives?
No, I was going to say, I think as I was understanding it is the specialization itself was being reduces the hours that they needed. So
we do have Jennifer Smith here on the call, who is are you director of the School of Languages or chair of the student? I don't know what your school is like at this point. No, you're muted. So sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm chair still of a department. Yeah, it does reduce the hours, but it also consolidates 4 area specializations into 1. So it does both.
So it's reducing. So how many credit hours are required for the degree then?
Oh, I don't have the RME right in front of me.
Well, I'll look that up for you while you're. Six credits of core classes, 15 for languages, that's 21, plus 12 additional credits of 4 courses. So that adds up to 33 hours, if I've done that correctly. 6, 15, and 12. I think that's 33 hours for the degree. Is that correct, Jennifer? Does that seem correct?
That sounds about right. Yeah, unfortunately, I should have come with the Army in front of me, but
I think I understand now. Okay, thank you.
Lizette, you want to add anything to discussion on this?
Yes, the main concept here was to maintain the credit hours required for the degree regardless of the specializations. But the main concept was to reduce the number of specializations. They had a category that fell under international studies. They said, why are we doing this? You've got, 3 or 4 options here. Why not just make it one option and combine our resources and streamline the curriculum? So it really is about providing the students with that.
Any more questions before we vote?
If not, I think we'd like to call the question.
Okay. Here's the poll. Okay. So 26 yay. 1 nay and 2 abstain. That includes myself. Okay.
thank you.
Next one.
Amy? Amy, do you have the next one?
Yep, sorry, I was muted. Okay, here we go. So yes, next we would like to have the resolution for changing the name of the BS in Fashion Design and Merchandising to the BS in Fashion Studies. So this is going to comply with the accreditation by the National Association of School of Arts and Design. So changing that name will help with the nomenclature to be consistent with peer institutions. It won't have any programmatic changes, but they will also, or the resolution is also to change fashion stylist to styling to also be consistent with the industry. So this will help the degree also follow along with the recommendation of their accrediting body.
Is Craig Amps on this call today? I don't know if he is or not.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Craig. Hi, Craig.
If you have anything to add at this time, that'd be great.
It's all pretty straightforward and probably should have occurred years ago. I mean, it's past time and it's in a direct relationship to our accrediting body and with peer institutions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, are there any questions?
No.
All right, I guess if we could call to question then, or to vote.
So if no question, we're going to process to vote.
Okay, launching the poll for eligible voters. Okay. And so 28 plus 1 for me is 29 yay, 0 nay, and 1 abstain.
All right, and then moving on, we have a resolution to recommend the elimination of the public service specialization in the bachelor's in political science. So the university went through reorganization, and the specific courses within the public service specialization from the bachelor's in political science were taught by faculty who are now moved to the College of Business and Analytics. So this won't affect students currently pursuing the specialization. They'll be able to complete the specialization by taking courses transferred to the College of Business and Analytics. This had unanimous department, faculty, and college committee support. And we did invite some additional people as recommended by the Executive Council to add any additional comments to this as well. So if anyone would like to add at this point.
Lizette, is Tobin here at all? Or I guess I see Scott here now. Scott's a member.
Scott's here.
Yeah, Tobin couldn't make it, so he asked me to cover for him, and I was going to be here anyway. So, as was said, the faculty who taught that specialization are no longer in the college, so we can't offer it any longer. So we need to eliminate it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do have a question about, I was wondering in the past, how many students graduated with the specialization? You know, I was wondering whether eliminating this specialization would kind of affect the enrollment of the.
It was not, I don't have specific numbers off the top of my head. It was not a particularly popular specialization within the department. I'd like to say somewhere in the single digits of students each year that graduated with that specialization. I believe there is, I don't know if it's been done yet. I believe that the faculty who've moved over to business are contemplating doing something similar over there, but I don't know where that stands right now, or whether they're going to follow through with carrying it on. I know they're going to teach out the current students, but I don't know if there are plans to form a similar specialization over there at this time.
We voted on something last year that was something similar. It's not identical to that, but I seem to remember we voted on something with dealing with nonprofit philanthropies and so on, and that could be construed as a sort of a variation of public service. But
yeah, nonprofit management was a significant portion of what the PA faculty did within political science when they were with us. So it stands to reason that they would continue along those lines.
Yeah, so that got voted on last year. I think either as a certificate program or was it a specialization? I don't remember which now.
I do have a question for you.
It was a minor.
Minor was a minor. So there you go. So we have curriculum now in the College of Business that's somewhat similar to the old curriculum.
Yeah, I do want to make clear though, nonprofit management, I don't know the specifics, but it's not all that similar to public service.
Right, sure. Okay.
Scott, I have a question to ask you. I'm just curious how, let's say, those people in public administration, such as Randy Davis, John Hammond, are they aware about this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were part of initiating the move of our public administration faculty over to the School of Business and wrote the proposals to do that. They're aware of this as well, so they know we're eliminating this.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before we vote?
Like to call the question then?
Okay.
Poll is launched for eligible voters.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, looks like everyone's voted. So 26 plus 1 for me is 27 yay, 1 nay, and 0 abstain. Whoops, let me share that. There you go.
Thank you, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are finished with all resolutions. And next one on our agenda, Budget Committee. And we have co-chairs, Dr. Marcus Oldham and Professor Jenny Probst.
We are right now working out, trying to have our first meeting or our budget committee. So we have nothing at this time, but we hopefully will have something going pretty soon.
Anything to add, Jenny?
She had to leave the meeting early.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Next one on the agenda, committees. committee on the committees. We have co-chairs, Elaine Joukowsky and Sung-Hee Lee.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Our first order of business is we have 2 volunteers that were affirmed for search committees by our Committee on Committees. Dr. Marcus Odom was affirmed to be on the search committee for Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration. And Dr. Michael Eichholz was affirmed by our committee to be on the search committee for the Vice Chancellor for Research and Graduate Dean. And I believe we need to have a motion, or I move that our Faculty Senate also affirms these appointments.
So anyone to second before we vote? Okay, Joseph. Okay, so I know we didn't have the poll. Maybe we'll have to vote virtually.
Oh, I can finish the report while Josh puts the poll together and come back to it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the second order of business on this report is that we have sent out a call through Josh to solicit volunteers for university committees. So this is the roster of committees that are staffed usually in the spring or fall of every year. And so we worked with Josh to update that list and the needs by the various committees, and that has been forwarded to faculty, and we've asked to have those due back by Friday, September 24th. And we also have been asked by the Chancellor to develop an ad hoc committee for enrollment and excellence. So we have put together a call for volunteers. We're looking for at least 6 people who are faculty outside of our Faculty Senate representatives. So Josh will be probably getting that out today, and it will be due back on Monday, September 27th. We also would like to thank Faculty Senate members for their willingness to volunteer on short notice. The requests we've had of late have had a really narrow turnaround, but we also want to thank and acknowledge Dr. Lee for requesting at least a lead time for Faculty Senate nominations. He made that request to administration, and so at least that voice has been heard. And this concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we need to have a or the Faculty Senate to verify the 2 nominations. And we had a motion, and Senator George Remick second. If you have no questions, we're going to have a vote to verify the 2 candidates.
I have a question, slight question to Elaine, really. Are there additional vacancies on these searches, or would these 2 nominations fill those vacancies?
No, these 2 nominations will fill the vacancies.
Thank you.
So we are going to vote to verify their nominations. So all the in favor say yay. You can raise up your hands electronically so that we can count. So Josh, could you help me to count? So how many? Mike, could you unmute yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there are 22 hand raised, and 1 person is clapping.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You can lower your hands. So we proved those 2 nominations. Thank you. The next one on our agenda, Faculty Status and Welfare Committee, and we have co-chairs, Dr. Scott Comprado and Professor Jennifer Sherry. So you report.
Thank you. Our report, we had a meeting last week, and discussed a number of issues that have come up over the summer that the Executive Council asked us to address, and we've begun discussions on a number of issues related to addressing a code of conduct for the faculty at the university, as well as revisiting the Faculty Senate operating paper as it pertains to membership, as well as beginning a discussion and monitoring the university's COVID policy and practices on campus, as well as several other issues. And we've really just begun our discussion on that, and several of our members have graciously agreed to start doing some research and legwork on some of these issues. And hopefully by next month, at our next meeting, we'll be able to have a little bit more detail about the results of our work and being able to perhaps report to the full Senate on those issues. Other than that, we don't have anything else to report. I'd be glad to take any questions, though, if anyone has any.
Thank you, Scott. Anything to add, Jennifer, Sherry?
No, thank you. That takes care of it. Thanks.
Any question for them? All right. The next one, Governance Committee, we have co-chairs, Jay Needham and also Lee Chung Wang.
Good afternoon. Our committee met, but at this point, we don't have anything to report.
Okay. All right, anything to add, Lee Chung?
No, we just met on August 27th and then nothing else. Yep.
Thank you. Now, the next one on our agenda, Faculty Advisory Council to IPHE, that's you and Dr. Lee Chung Wang. You have a few minutes to report.
Yeah, since our last faculty meeting, there's no meetings from IPHE. We are going to meet on a Friday, so hopefully I will be able to report you on during the next faculty senate meeting. Thank you.
All right. Any question for her? All right, thank you. Now, Graduate Council representative, Graduate Council and Professor Junhua Lee, are you here?
Yes. The Graduate Council met for the first meeting of the academic year on the first Thursday of the month, September 2nd. So there's not a lot to report yet, but more will be coming in the coming months. One thing I wanted to mention is that the Graduate Council had a research spotlight at the monthly meetings last year, highlighting faculty and student research as part of Graduate Council Chair's report, which was positively received. So the Council has decided to continue having the research spotlight this year as well. Many Council members as well as visitors were impressed by the variety of research and SIU presented by different colleges and units and were enthusiastic. So the Graduate Council is looking forward to seeing more of these presentations in the coming months. The meetings are open to visitors, and the next meeting will be on Thursday, October 7th between 8 and 10 a.m. So anyone interested is welcome to join us via Zoom. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Junhua Lee. The next one on our agenda is the report from Vice Chancellor of Research, Dr. Gary Kinzel. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm wondering if I can share my screen, if that would be all right.
Sure.
I wanted to show a little bit of the research funding from fiscal year 21 and a couple of other good news items that I thought people would be interested in. So let me get my screen up here. There we go. All right, so you should see now a slide which shows our research funding from fiscal year 21 and also some comparisons with some previous years. So just to show you, point out a couple of things. So this is the submissions from last year and the awards from last year. And this is just for the Carbondale campus, plus the Carbondale School of Medicine faculty. This does not include the Springfield School of Medicine faculty in these totals, okay? So over on the submission side, you can see that our submissions were very good last year. We had 350 submissions. That's up from previous years. And the total value was down a little bit at $100 million. I'd be happy if we got $100 million. I wouldn't complain, but that's we're going to get what we're going to get, right? So the indirect that was included in those submissions was about 21.2 million. So the effective indirect rate of those submissions was about 27%. We look at the awards. Last fiscal year, we received 282 awards of various kinds. And again, you can see that that number is up. It's one of the highest in the last 5 years. The total dollar value of those awards was about $44.7 million, which for the Carbondale campus was up about $800,000 from the previous year. And the total indirect on those awards was about $4.17 million, which is an effective indirect rate of about 10.3%. I'm pleased that that number has increased over the prior 2 years. It's still a little bit below where I think it needs to be. It would be good if we can get our effective indirect return up to between 15 and 20%, which is what seems to be common with a lot of universities in similar situations to ourselves. Just to be clear, none of these numbers include the higher education emergency relief funds that we received as part of the pandemic. In fiscal year 20, we had 4.4 million of the so-called CARES Act funding. And then in fiscal year 21, we had 20.1 million of the so-called HERF funds. So if these were added in, of course, these numbers would be quite a bit larger. One thing that I did that I think is kind of interesting to take a look at, assuming I can get my screen to advance here. There we go. I got curious because I did see the outcome as a positive trend line, but I was, if you are in this game, you realize that the amount of awards that you get is actually very dependent on the number of faculty that you have. You really, those two things are tied together very closely. And so I decided to look back for about the last 10 years to see what our total research award dollars were. And I've got those listed here. You can very clearly see the drop off that was due to the state budget impasse right in there. We were going in the 50 million range and we dropped down to about 37 million, and we're gradually sort of creeping back up towards that $50 million range, effective indirect rates and so on. But what I really want to point out is over here on the right side of your screen, this is the number of tenure track faculty for the last, well, I couldn't find it 10 years ago, but I got the last 9 years. And all that I did was take this total research dollars and divide it by the number of tenure track faculty to get a dollars per tenure track faculty member. And you can see that over this last 9 years, we've actually seen a very positive increase in the grant dollars per faculty member. And such that in this last year, fiscal year 21, the overall return was about $93,000 on average per tenure track faculty member. And so even though it would be very lovely if this number was jumping back up to the $50 million range, I still think we're doing extremely well given the fact that we've had some losses in our tenure track faculty lines. We're now actually improving the award per faculty member. So if we can continue to hire as we have for the last few years, we'll see this number increase. I'm certain of it. And this is a real positive statement, I think, as to the productivity of our faculty in the research domain. This gives you a little bit of an idea of our standing with respect to what's called the NSF HERD report. Please keep in mind, this is the research expenditures. It is not the awards. And so I show here our expenditures in the last fiscal year or calendar year 19, which is the last year that the NSF has a report for. And you can see that as of calendar year 19, we had about $42 million of expenditures. It made us the top funded R2 research university in the publics. And if you look down at the privates, we still are the top funded R2 research university in terms of the private universities in the state of Illinois. So again, I think something to be very proud of. We do continue to hold our position as one of the most successful research R2 universities in the state of Illinois. This is another piece of information. Oh, and I guess I should apologize for all the numbers. I am kind of a numbers guy by training. That's my training as an analytical chemist. So I tend to look at these kinds of files and plots. But I thought this was another interesting survey response. This is a survey that was done by the Association of University Technology Managers, or AUTM. This is based on a 2020 licensing survey. This is for the SIU system as a whole, not just Carbondale or Springfield, but all three campuses. And you'll see here that our research expenditures were about $60 million in 2020, and our income from our licensing was about $1.3 million. And what I found rather fascinating in looking at this number is this income is actually very large. When you compare this to, for example, Penn State University, a university system that has over $1 billion of research expenditures, their income on licensing is not that much more than ours. And so this struck me as, I'd like to know what our return on investment is. In other words, how much gross income are we getting for the amount of expenditures they're putting forward? And so I took and I divided the gross income by the total research expenditures, and then I ranked all of the universities in this comparison. And here's where we end up coming in at. This is our return on investment, if you want to think of it that way. Our gross percent income as a function of expenditures is about 2.2%. Well, what you don't see here is that if you take and look at the overall ranking, this actually puts us in the top 50 of all research systems in the country. And I think that's actually a very impressive number, that we're getting such a positive return for our research in terms of the licensing income. That speaks, I think, very highly to the practical intellectual property of the faculty and the work that they're doing. Finally, just a little summary here. We remain in the top half of all R2 universities in the country. We're the highest ranked R2 university in the state of Illinois. Our research awards at the Carbondale increased from $44.7 million, or that's an increase of over $7 million since the 2016 state budget impasse. For the system, our research awards were $61.2 million. That's not the system. That includes the School of Medicine and the Carbondale campus and the Springfield campus. So the Springfield and Carbondale campuses were $61.2 million. That's an increase of about $16 million since the state impasse. Our research dollars per tenure track faculty have increased consistently for 10 years, from about $76,000 per faculty to about $93,000 per faculty. And finally, our return on investment with respect to our technology transfer actually places us within the top 50 of all institutions reporting to that survey, which I think is very impressive. One last little thing that I'll throw out here just to kind of give an update. I wanted to say a couple of words quickly about the McLafferty Research Annex. Some of you know that we've been, for the last quite a few years, envisioning what we can do with that facility out there. We've had the Fermentation Science Institute go out there. We've had the Fishery Center set up space out there. And we've had an ultrafast laser spectroscopy lab that's in the basement. You won't see it unless you go down in the basement. It's not obvious when you walk in the building, but there's still left a huge amount of space left to develop. And so when I took over as VCR a couple of years ago, I had a goal of trying to get funding to move this whole facility forward. We started off with an initial investment of about $2.5 million. That's what allowed us to set up the things that I just mentioned. We have been awarded $2.5 million from the Illinois Innovation Network. We haven't seen the money yet, but we've been, notified that we will get it eventually. And that money is intended to go ahead and finish out some of these facilities associated with these units up above. Very recently, we were able to get $1.1 million from the SIU Foundation. That money should be used to actually finish out some of the fermentation science space that's allocated there. And one of the goals is to bring in a commercial brewer to set up a full-scale brewery in that facility. And in fact, that's where I just came from. Before this meeting, I was sitting over in McLafferty meeting with representatives from Ravinia Brewing, and we were discussing all the architectural features that have to be put in place for them to begin to install their brewery. And we're working on the drawings right now. And my expectation is that we'll have final architectural drawings before the end of the calendar year. And I honestly think that we'll be looking at construction and maybe even occupation of that space before the end of the fiscal year. And then most recently, myself, along with Lynn Lindbergh, Matt McCarroll, and Lahiru Jayakadni, we applied for some funding from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to establish what we've termed the BioLaunch Core Facility out in the McLafferty Annex. This BioLaunch Core Facility consists of a biotechnology laboratory, an analytical laboratory, and a business development annex. And we were notified earlier this summer that we had received that funding in an amount of about $2.7 million. And so this funding is being matched with in-kind contributions from the university for a total of about $5.4 billion. This should allow us to set up a facility, a laboratory facility out in the McLafferty Annex that will be extraordinarily useful for all of the faculty on campus who need access to biotechnology and analytical type instrumentation. But another big goal of this facility is to set up a portal through which regional economic development can occur. This is for companies that need testing done, companies that need analysis done, companies that need method development done, all these different things. They will be able to come in through the business development annex and get access to faculty expertise, staff expertise for the types of developments that they're needing to do with their businesses. So finally, most recently, we have put in a proposal about a year ago to install a magnetic resonance imaging facility in the McLafferty Annex. It was not funded on the first round, but the biggest criticism of the proposal was, where are you going to put it? And now we know absolutely where we're going to put it. We have a space in the McLafferty Annex that is identified for this to go. And my hope and expectation really is that we will resubmit that proposal in the next round of the National Science Foundation Major Research Instrumentation competition. And I feel very optimistic that this will be a successful application now that we've got a space for this. And this is a partnership with Southern Illinois Healthcare, the School of Medicine, and various faculty here on the SIU campus that are not associated with the med school. So it's a very promising application, a promising future for this facility. And if you add it all up, you can see that we're looking at a facility somewhere between $12 and $15 million, a research complex that will be established. It will be a state-of-the-art and a point of real pride for the SIU campus when this is completed. And I think it's going to take a couple of years to get it all done, but we're moving in the right direction at this point. So with all that said, I will stop sharing. And if anyone has any questions, anything that they'd like me to try to address, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Gary Kinzel. I think the information is very, very important, helpful to us. I saw the chat room, the responses. And I would like to our senators to ask you questions if they have.
It's more of a comment, but I think it's more of kind of thinking about things in a more holistic manner. Then I think these reports sometimes come at us very piecemeal. So I think about enrollment retention at the beginning of the hour, and I hope Wendell is still on this call, because I think it seems to me one of the singular strengths of our university is we're an R2, we're a high functioning R2. And yet we have more opportunities across our curriculum for undergraduates to participate in original research projects while they're undergraduates. Or, we talk a lot about graduate students and faculty getting these grants and everything. But for example, I'll highlight even in my side of the university in humanities, Pickney, Benedict, and I are, just working with now Dean Politz of the library on a digital humanities lab, which is on the 6th floor of Morris Library. We're resuming our podcast projects. We're resuming our AR, VR projects, and this is undergraduate research again, creativity, and sciences with the lab work, various, so I just think this is something we ought to celebrate more. We ought to package this. We ought to be marketing this to the cows come home, because our competitors are not always doing this. I know in my side of the university, again, my side of the curriculum, other universities don't let people publish as an undergraduate. They don't let people do these things as undergraduates. We do. We believe in that, and that's we shouldn't be bashful about bragging about that. That's a comment, not a question.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joe. I could not agree with you more. And if you ever see me in front of a group of parents or students or things like that, I'd say all those things that I really do agree that this is a special place. This is a place where an undergraduate can get an experience that they're not going to get at a lot of other places. I term it that we're a Goldilocks size. We're big enough to have great opportunities for undergraduates to participate in research, and we're small enough that anybody who wants to do it and has a little bit of proactive, let's go talk to a faculty member, can get involved. So I'm with you 100%.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And the next question from, Li Chang, do you have questions?
Hi, Gary. It's very interesting. I was wondering, it will be more interesting if you can somehow separate the return of investment for patent, those things on the campus, SIU, say campus, and, from School of Medicine. But that's my curious part. One question I do have is, what do you see as the biggest challenges for promoting research on campus?
The challenges for promoting it?
Yeah, challenges.
Oh boy. Well, time to put together the marketing materials, personnel. I mean, honestly, we have a great story to tell. It's just finding the resources, the people, the time to actually package it. Because if you're in marketing, you've got to package this stuff for all the different venues. Anybody got a free hour and they want to help out, I'd love to to have a conversation, because it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to put it all together. That's the biggest challenge.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Li Chang. We have a hand from Provost Kumarajo.
Yeah, just a moment to share a couple of thoughts. Gary had presented the same data at Cabinet today, and we did talk about how to market it so that internal and external, even for our campus community, to know how fantastic the faculty are. And I also want to share as a backdrop is that the productivity rate that Gary shared per faculty member. Imagine this is with 0 hires in fall 18.
Yes.
So even though we have not replaced all the faculty, we're still able to have such productive faculty. And then that we are not always well known as the number one R2 university in Illinois. So we've talked to university communications about really taking that and running with it, and how much it might cost to really publicize that as much as possible. So we are waiting for a number so that we can invest in those efforts. And then the last thing I just want to mention is that all of the freshman students in University 101 are kind of like grouped by colleges. So it's a great opportunity to take these students through your research labs and creative activity areas, so that while they're there, they can write home and talk to their friends about the cool stuff that they're doing at SIU. So that's also an inexpensive way of promoting, because if they still have connections with their high school friends who are still like seniors or juniors, or they have sisters and brothers, this is a way that, because they are quick to put things on social media, So if they are in a research lab or, just to encourage them to do that, you don't have to make them do it, but encourage them to share the message that the experience that they've had. So I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response from Gary?
100% agreement. How's that for a response? I mean, I didn't hear a question in there, but I agreed with everything that was said. How about that?
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Elaine, you have a question for Gary?
It's more of a comment. In terms of marketing, it seems like we have some really great resources here on campus, and maybe we can utilize some service learning approach through our marketing department and some of the projects that students have to engage themselves in, and possibly get some student input around what would attract students through some of the projects that our students have to do within their marketing courses. So just maybe like an avenue for you to get some mileage and some creative ideas from our own student body to help with, marketing some of these kind of concepts and ideas to the both student community and broader community. So I just throw that out for an idea.
No, I appreciate the idea. It's been in my mind. I'm not trying to make excuses here, but even those steps, sometimes I have trouble finding time to figure out how to get it started, so it's a great suggestion. I really do think our marketing students would, it'd be a good challenge for them, figure out how to do this and really get this out there. I think that would be great and a real practical learning experience. So I agree with you 100%.
Okay. If I may, Gary, I do have a question to ask you. You present the data over in this grant as one of the measurement, which is important. I'm just curious about the accomplishment or some other kind of information which may not be related to STEM area, such as humanity, arts, social sciences. Yeah. Could you make some comments or give us some update?
Well, I wish I had more that I could say, quite honestly. If you remember, some of you probably remember years back, Dr. Korupchik used to collect information on a regular basis of publications and presentations and so on. That was, that stopped quite a few years back. It's something that I had a goal to try to restart this. And actually, we were looking at a commercial product that might have allowed us to move in that direction. A web crawler, basically, that downloads all the publications and presentations and so on. Turned out to be rather expensive, so it wasn't practical at the time. We may go back to this idea of actually asking for individual departments and colleges to report these other forms of production, publications and presentations, but I have not done that at this point. I think all I can do is point at sort of the secondary evidence that we must be doing pretty good because we're getting the money to reflect it, right? So that's a good sign. But I really, I get very impressed with all of the different things that I hear from the different faculty and their productivity on campus. Even, for me, it's not the size of the dollar figure. It's the fact that this person is, in this department has managed to get somebody, to put an idea on the table that's worth funding. I think that's a great sign of success. And it doesn't matter whether it's $4,000 or $2,000 or $500,000. It's all success in my book. And, 350 awards, that's not a small number in the last fiscal year. So there's a lot to be proud of there.
Thank you. Any other question for him before we move on? Inan, do you still have a question? Okay. All right, we have all the business. So for October meeting, we are going to do it by Zoom, and we may need to have a discussion about the rest of academic year. I know given the pandemic situation, And we had the executive council meeting last Tuesday, and we talked that maybe for the rest of the academic year, we will continue Zoom.
Is there a reason this decision has to be made now?
Well, we do not need to make it right now. It's just this is part of the old business.
So I guess I'm just suggesting that, you know, if we can just schedule one meeting at a time that way and, you know, base it on the conditions or that are predicted conditions at that time, instead of trying to set it up in your advance, I don't see a big advantage of doing that, I guess is my only statement.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Mike on this because if you just recall, we were not wearing masks in June and July, and then all of a sudden, because of Delta, we had to go back to mask, and now we have vaccine mandate. Things are changing just so rapidly with the Delta variant and I guess what's coming after Delta, that I think we really ought to be playing wait and see right now, rather than making any concrete plans more than we need to.
Okay, so for sure that next month we're going to meet by Zoom. Then we will continue our discussion. Am I right?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any new business? Yes, Professor Brown. You have a hand?
I don't know if this is new business or not, but it needs to be said that we need, as we have paid attention when you brought it up in your comments about going to Shane Cox Memorial Service and presenting the resolution. I just want to say that I am very proud of this university and every aspect of its community for the way we paid attention to the killing of Kishana Jackson on the 22nd of August. This is the Faculty Senate, only one constituency group of many. But to know that at 7:15 that morning, 4 hours after she had been killed, I got a message from the chancellor telling me about it. And 2 hours, 3 hours later, student leaders were telling me they were planning a memorial service, which eventually had over 300 people at it. It was an amazing moment in my 24 years I've been here, because I've had to be involved with so many memorial services, funerals, and vigils. And then there was the campus-wide memorial service that was spurred by the pounding heart of our chancellor. I couldn't be physically able to be there because I had to meet someone in St. Louis at the airport at the same time. But I have been stopped by people all over this city talking about how moved they were by what we were able to do. And to quote one of my favorite plays, Death of a Salesman, attention must be paid. And I just really think that if this becomes a recurring theme about how do we commemorate, lift up, and pay attention to those who die in our family, then that's one of the other points that I think is going to be also helpful to recruitment and retention. If we are a caring family, not we welcome you into our house. If we get away from that diversity issue and act like we really are family by demonstrating what was done that 4 days, then I think that we need to be very, very much aware that we do it right when we do it from the heart.
Thank you, Professor Brown. Well said. Thank you. Any other new business before we move on? All right, we are 15 minutes ahead of time. This is the first time we have some time here. And if you would like to join the meeting, I need a motion. So Jennifer, you're going to move it?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.